This is an urgent appeal from the Disasters Emergency Committee. Hundreds of thousands of people have fled their homes to escape conflict in Ukraine, leaving jobs, belongings and loved ones behind. They need shelter, food and water. You can help. To donate online, search DEC or text radio to 70150 to give £10. Thank you.
Streaming 24/7, this is Brum Radio.
Thank you for downloading this Brum Radio podcast. For more podcasts, visit brumradio.com.
I'm Dave Massey. I'm joined on the telephone by Jack Wilcox, who is playing Tony Manero in Saturday Night Fever, which is in Birmingham all this week from the 22nd to the 26th of November. And it's the final week of the UK tour for this. It's the John Travolta film. And Jack is playing Tony Manero, which is the role that John Travolta played in the film. Good afternoon, Jack. How are you?
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us about this today. I'm really thrilled that this tour is coming back to Birmingham. As I just mentioned to you before we started recording, I saw this production when it was on tour during 2018. What was your first involvement in this tour, and what does it feel like to be playing such an iconic role?
Yeah, so I joined the show about 10 weeks ago for this tour, this autumn tour that we've done. I'm really loving every second of playing this role. It's such an iconic role, obviously. When you think of it, John Travolta comes to mind. So that in itself is a little bit daunting at times. But I'm really enjoying the challenge. It's a very full-on show for me. There's a lot of scene work, a lot of dancing and music, and it keeps me very busy throughout the whole show, and I just love the journey of doing it every single night.
One of the things that surprised me about the previous production that I saw was that it was quite in terms of tone. There was some quite adult and quite serious elements to that production compared to the version that we think of as being the regular film. Were you surprised about the sort of the tone that comes into the story throughout?
Well, when I first watched the film, so there's two versions of the film. The original film is actually an 18 because there is some dark themes in there and some bad language. So I was sort of prepared because I knew the story. However, the musical, I think it finds a really good halfway house with that. It doesn't shy away from some dark themes. It's got a dense script, which is actually really refreshing because it's not just a jukebox musical. No. You know, we have a dense script where we tackle these challenging themes, and hopefully we make the audience think a little bit. But like I said, I think it's a good halfway house between the original film, which was quite shocking to some, and I think they later released the PG version of that film. So it would depend what version of the film you've seen. But don't get me wrong, it's a feel good show. You absolutely leave feeling like you've had a great time, but there's one or two scenes which will make you think, which I think is a really good balance, actually.
I think that's wonderful to come and see this. And I think a lot of the audience that's coming to see this might know the tracks that are on the stage as well. This is unusual in that there's a band that plays and sings a lot of the tracks themselves compared to regular musicals, like there's such a thing, and compared to musicals where the lead character might sing throughout, or where they're interacting or telling the story through the songs. This is very, very much the songs help narrate the story, I guess, almost. Do you see it that way yourself?
Absolutely, yeah, and it is unique in that sense because we have three guys who play the Bee Gees, and they've been hired specifically because A, they sing brilliantly, but B, they sound exactly like the original Bee Gees. So it's nice to have that sort of nod to that classic sound. It's almost, you've got the tribute there, but then you've got the full story with it underneath it. So it's kind of a nod to both a tribute show and a musical. It's kind of the best of both in that sense.
And as I said, this tour is entering its final week at the moment. You've been touring, it looks like, since September. Had you got any venues that you'd been to before, or were there some new venues that you went to? And did you have any that stood out as for particular reasons at all?
I think our favourite venues, my favourite venue that I've been to on this tour was Edinburgh Playhouse, just because Edinburgh's beautiful and it's one of the biggest auditoriums in the UK, I believe. I think it's close to 3,000 seats or something.
Wow.
So it's huge, and it was a real privilege to take the show there. I have a soft spot for Birmingham, Alexandra. I'm from Warsaw myself, so I'm not far from there. So a lot of my sort of extended family will be coming to watch the show, and the Alex is actually where I took part in my first show when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
I was in Oliver in 1997 with Gary Wilmot as Fagin.
That's amazing.
Yes. So it's a trip down memory lane for me, which is lovely.
So, do you consider this to be? I imagine from Warsaw, you could consider a few theatres to be your maybe a home theatre to you. Do you consider this to be a little bit more of a homecoming than the other venues on the tour?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I live in Bedfordshire now, so we actually opened in Milton Keynes, which is actually the closest to where I live now. But then we're ending the tour on where. Probably the closest one to where I used to live when I was younger, so it's kind of nice to bookend it both ways. It's quite it's worked out really well. That's
brilliant. That must be a wonderful thing to come back to that theatre as well. And the thing is, because the Alexandra is such an old theatre, it's been it's over 100 years old now. Maybe I think it's even 120 years old now. I went on a tour very recently there. It was the first time they trusted me to go behind the scenes at the theatre, and I found hidden doors that I didn't know about previously as well. Do you think it's going to still feel as mysterious as it did when you first performed there?
I'm sure it will. It's strange because I've played a lot of theatres over the years, and I sort of just walking around them unlocks different memories for me. So if you sort of say, oh, do you remember that Alhambra in Bradford? I'll be kind of like, yeah, vaguely. But then when I see it, or when I see a certain dressing room that I might have been in years ago or something like that, it's really quite interesting how it can jog your memory and take you back.
That's amazing. Well, I hope you have a wonderful time when you come into Birmingham across this week that you're here. I think it'll be a real opportunity for you to... I mean, there's a lot of buzz in the city at the moment as well, because we've got the Christmas markets, which have been here for a couple of weeks already. So there'll be things for you to do through the day for the 10 minutes gaps that you get here and there as well. So I think that'd be wonderful. I hope you have a really great time while you're here in Birmingham, and I can't wait to see you in this performance as Tony Manero in Saturday Night Fever. Jack, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us about this today.
Real pleasure. Thanks so much.
You can find tickets for Saturday Night Fever at atgtickets.com. Check out Saturday Night Fever at the Alexandra Birmingham. Make sure it's Birmingham that you're booking tickets for, and then check out kenwright.com and you look at the productions there, and it'll have details about cast and crew from Saturday Night Fever as well there as well.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.